You've been thinking about that story for far too long. It's time to write. But how do you build the world within your writing? How can you explain it without massive info dumps, too much exposition, or several maps you don't know how to draw? Let's find out. World building covers everything, but all of those languages, wars, governments, battles, locations, and characters start with three major things: physical laws, history, and story. So before we talk about how to write a world seamlessly, we need to understand those things. Physical laws. Just like in real life, fictional worlds are contained within a world that has certain limitations. You need boundaries on your world, or it won't be believable or immersive. And no, that doesn't mean you need to limit your imagination. It just means you need to know where the line is. Physical laws are not just about gravity or hot and cold, though that is all important because a story wouldn't make much sense if your dragons have wings but they live in a microgravity environment like the moon. Even though a book about moon dragons sounds awesome, physical laws are primarily there as a foundation for realism, and counterintuitively, they are the basis for your magic systems. If there was no limit on magic or no rules around magic, anything could happen, and if anything can happen, things begin to contradict, and contradictions are a one-way street to a terrible story that nobody will read. History. This is your timeline, and it's an important one because this forms species, races, languages, places, governments, wars, and most importantly, character backstories. You need to make sure you're not writing certain events in certain places that make no sense. Having even a general idea of the history of your world is hugely informative when it comes time to write your book. Most people think they only need the history of their characters, but if those characters live in a fictional world, every person and object they interact with requires some semblance of realism. History provides that realism, because it explains how that person or object came to be. Harry Potter could have been written without reference to any history of the wizarding world, but then there would be an awful lot of questions about who this Voldemort guy is and why he can't be named. Story. Story is by far the most important foundation of world building, because what story really means is context. If you spend 1,000 hours building a world across several whiteboards, including every historical moment and every magical property, two things will happen. The first is you won't use 90% of what you invented because most of it won't be relevant to the story or to the characters. And so you'll either have just wasted your time or you'll end up forcing things into the book that don't serve the story and just make the world worse. And the second is you'll burn out. The most enjoyable part of writing a book is creating the world, creating the characters, and creating the story. If you do all of that before you even start your first chapter, you'll probably take 10 years to finish the manuscript, or you just won't finish it. Instead, try saving some of those creative juices to push you through the painstaking process of writing the damn thing. Trust me, even experienced authors hit a wall, and you're going to want some of that inspiration when you need it. So keep story context in mind when world building. Aim to build a little bit more than you need, but don't go overboard. You can always add much more to your world during the writing process. But Cal, how do I write my world without massive info dumps or unrealistic dialogue? Well, you need to weave and sprinkle only the information that the reader really needs. The key technique to avoid info dumping is to introduce just the info the reader needs when they need it. That could mean sprinkling info across lots of different sections, or missing some bits altogether. Here's an example. This character has had a difficult day because they woke up to bad news about their grandparent passing away, and then when they got to school they were bullied by an overweight and insecure student, and so they hid inside of the library, and now the librarian is asking why they aren't in class and the character snaps angrily at them. Instead of writing all those circumstances across several sentences, the reader simply needs to know that this character is having a bad day, and that's why they snap at the librarian. Instead of endless descriptive sentences, use the scene itself to explain the history, like this. Henry's face swelled red and his stomach turned. "It's none of your business," he snapped. The librarian's eyes dropped as she stepped away from the boy. Henry watched as the face of his grandmother disappeared from his mind, and he immediately felt the guilt climb into his throat. I'm sorry, miss. I've had a horrible day." Notice how this descriptive text and this dialogue work together to set the scene without too much exposition. The reader didn't need to know about the entire day before this moment, they just needed to know why he was angry. And now the writer has ammunition to use later, in the form of history. So if Henry's bad day ever does need explaining, there's no contradiction, and more importantly, there's no unnecessary dump of information to take readers out of the pace of the story. Unlike screenplays where dialogue and facial expression are the primary drivers of the plot, books can have a balance of thought exposition. This, when used with dialogue, is powerful. It just can't be overused. Another way to sprinkle info and build your world is through carefully curated plot moments. Many side plots and many side characters can create the perfect way to reveal your world over time. This way, you can use mini info dumps and meet relevant expectations. If what you're writing is relevant to the current page and not just a tangent of pure creativity that carried you away, the reader will remain engaged. And before you know it, your world will be a fully realized universe. Speaking of fully realized universes, you can get my books from the link in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe. I share weekly videos to inspire your creativity. See you in the next one.